Thank you for listening to Pow Block Podcast, the flagship Nintendo podcast of Boss Rush Network. Do you need even more gaming and entertainment in your life? Head over to bossrush.net where you can find news, reviews, creators, podcasts, and more focused around the content you enjoy.
Hello everybody, welcome to Nintendo Pow Block here on Boss Rush Network. I'm your host, the enlightened and excited Eddie V. Joining me is the devastating Dutchoneer himself, Mr. David Lasby, who it's been a while since I did this.
We're glad to have you around, Ed.
The vivacious vegan himself, Mr. Greysun Morales.
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
And sophisticated and how should I put this? The lovely Mr. Stephanie.
Wow, I actually threw you a little bit off guard. Usually they're pretty quick with those nicknames.
Yeah, I wanted to ask something like really spicy because just like, oh, I'm so happy when you come on the podcast. I'm like, oh, Stephanie's here. I get the nerd out.
Yeah. So much when I got that message, because I had a late work meeting that went till 8 o'clock Eastern time, and it's 8:30 now. I'm like, doing it. I'm doing it.
Yes. How was everybody this weekend? Grayson, how was your weekend?
It was good. I mean, I think I was mostly just laying around. Like we'll talk about it later, but I was playing. I started and finished Life is Strange: True Colors. So that was the majority of my game time. So I was very proud of myself for finishing that because lately I've been like juggling like 4 games and haven't finished anything. So that was my weekend, and yeah, definitely snacked a lot on a lot of things. So.
Oh yeah, well, I seen your snacks. I was just like, "Are you snack-tillowing outside?" He's just like, "Yes, I am."
In advance.
Right, Stephanie, how was your weekend?
Oh, it went by in a whirlwind. I'm trying to even remember what I did. What did I do? I don't know, like a mix of adulting and a mix of whatever. I met up with a friend, and then my son had a play date, and we had a yard sale. Ooh, so this is a little hard for me to say out loud because I was trying to forget it. I had to sell some of my old consoles to make some money to buy some new stuff.
Oh, you help bless people to find the past, to live the past.
Yeah.
In this modern age.
You know, it's funny, like no one really wanted anything else, but as soon as some people started seeing the games, they're like, oh, what's this? Like, do you have any DS games? I'm like, hold that thought. I ran to get it. And
Wow.
like, I'm not a real true game collector, so I can't really act like I don't know. I just feel like there's this guy in particular who bought like 90% of the games that I had sold. And he says, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go home and play these. So I'm like, you know what?
Aww.
He's going to get much more benefit from it than I have. Those are games that I've played through once, done, never touch, and probably will never touch again. I mean, there's stuff I wouldn't sell. Like, I wouldn't sell my Ocarina of Time N64 cartridge. I said, never. That's my baby. That's my baby. But the other stuff I parted with, and I made a little bit of money, so now I can kind of justify some fall purchases.
Yes, I need to do a garage sale. I've never done one yet. Like go and shop. Like, do I need an outfit for a garage sale? Go shopping. I'm bad boy when it comes to clothes and certain events. I literally used to buy clothes just to go see a certain movie. Like I get outfit out to go see a certain movie. Grayson is just like, I know all about that. David, how was your weekend?
It's good. I been trying to. Well, I guess I shouldn't jump into this now, but I've been playing a lot of Metroid games, trying to finish through that. So I'll talk more about those and playing with Power. But I've been having a lot of success with that, so that's been good. And I started reading my first video game-based novel, which was kind of interesting. I've done like the graphic novels for Legend of Zelda, but as you've heard me talk about Aliens Fireteam a lot, they Cold Iron Studios partnered with an author to write backstory for the game, and so I'm reading that novel right now, and it's actually really good. I'm enjoying it. So.
Oh, did they bring it's out?
Yeah. I ordered it on Amazon, and I've been reading it this week, so that's been kind of fun. And then it made the game more enjoyable because they like the studio and game designers like worked really close with the author to like write them at the same time. So there's like all these like references to each other in the game or in the novel. So it's been kind of fun to go back and play things and find Easter eggs. So it's been kind of it was a cool idea.
Oh,
Wait, so that's backstory for Fireteam?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
They wrote it the same time as they wrote the game, so they're like really super connected.
Nice.
That's cool.
Cool.
Kind of made me wonder if because like especially like how like Nintendo is always looking for merchandise opportunities and stuff. Like imagine like for Breath of the Wild 2 they release a manga at the same time that's like canon.
Oh my god.
Like that would be so cool. So I hope that other companies start doing that.
I will be at Barnes & Noble pre-ordering. I need like 4 copies of books here.
Well, Nintendo would only make like 4 copies. So.
And then it'll disappear after like March 31st, whatever date that is.
Well, for me, I went to go visit a friend in Indiana. I got to hang out with them, like really miss them and stuff. Treating them out to brunch. We watched Super Metroid speed run. Got to play Ghost Runner actually on his Switch, and I was just like, if I played this, I need to be, because I was laid in bed far away from the TV, and it was kind of dark, and I couldn't see something, so I was running off the buildings multiple times. I was just like, oh, I'm playing Mario Brothers, and I'm just dying like it's no tomorrow. But it was really fun, so I might have to pick it up. Playing with power there, but I have more to talk about. But yeah, that's kind of what I had, and then, of course,
Show and tell.
Yes.
Oh, hey.
Yes.
Our very own MJ Kung, also from another Zelda dungeon, another Zelda podcast. Oh goodness, I apologize, guys. Another Zelda podcast. Her debut book, Among Thieves, is out. So I have pre-ordered my copy from Barnes & Noble. You guys can get your copy also from Barnes & Noble, or just look up MJ Kung Books on Twitter and like go on her link and get the information there. It just released, so guys, go out and support her. When she, if you don't know MJ Khan, me, her, and LaRon from Crossroads, we did in the past a Boss Rush podcast about the Mass Effect episode games, and we just nerded out being, talking about that game, and she's been talking about writing her book, and I told her once the pre-sales go up, let me know. She did, and I pre-ordered it. So I cannot wait to dive in on vacation and read it. So Among These, MJ Khan, congratulations on your debut book. And yes, you guys could check it out at Barnes & Noble. But we're going to get into Snacktendo. Stephanie, what have you been snacking on?
All right, snacking on a little here and there. I found, I doubt they're new, but I found, is it birthday cake flavored Oreos? So it's birthday cake Oreos?
Yeah.
I found my new favorite Oreo flavor. And here's the thing. I don't know if this happens to you, David, but like I have the best intentions when I go food shopping for my son, who's trying to peek into the computer because I talked about Oreos, that, I buy these snacks for him. Like, oh, well, now that he starts school, I need to pack these lunches. I might not be able to make the healthy ones all the time. I just need like emergency snacks like Oreos, Goldfish, whatever. And let me tell you, on 90% of the time, I'm throwing that high figure around a lot, I eat all of those snacks. Usually he never ends up seeing the light of day. I'll like give him a banana and then I'll munch on the chips. So that was the story behind that. He picked those out and then I decided to try one. I'm like, those birthday cake flavored Oreos are bomb. And then not bacon flavored Cheez-Its, but they have this bacon seasoning on the Cheez-Its. Yeah, I was like, okay, I really love bacon and I really love Cheez-Its. This could either be really good or really bad. Not too bad. It took a while for my mind to kind of wrap itself around what my taste buds were feeling. Very savory, but it's good. And then lastly, I actually bought, I probably should save the box, some vegan Pad CU to add to my meal. I'm always game to try out and experiment all these different kinds of things. I just love the flavor of Pad CU.
That sounds good.
That's me.
Oh, I gotta explore some more Thai food.
Yes.
So, Grayson, what have you been snacking on?
Oh man. Okay, so there are two things that I have to talk about, and and both of these things I got from Trader Joe. Well, actually, no. One of them I got from Target. The other one I got from Trader Joe's. I have to look this up because I forgot the name of the brand. But this is sweet and salty kettle corn, and it's from Boom. It's called Boom Chicka Pop,
Yes.
and you
Great
guys have probably
brand.
seen it before. Oh my god, these are so good. And we bought instead of buying like a big bag, we bought like a bag that comes with like 7 individual bags of popcorn.
Oh, they sell them
You know,
that way?
so whenever you're craving like popcorn, you can just have a little personal bag of popcorn. So that's really good. And then from Trader Joe's, I don't have them. I finished them like in one day, but we got these. They're pretty much just plantain chips that have been like crisp, like made more crispy. So like deep fried, I guess. And they're so freaking good. That we divide, like it was a small bag. Me and my partner just like ate the whole entire thing in like 1 or 2 sittings probably. But man, yeah, Trader Joe's is like the best for snacks. I can't, like, every time I go there, we're just like want everything from the snacks aisle. But yeah, those two things I'm snacking on. I've also we bought a box of ice cream sandwiches from Target. They're like a mini, like super small ice cream sandwiches. You don't feel bad for eating one like every night. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Ice cream sandwiches. I would do 2 bars
So good.
per night. Yeah, they're so good. When I see a buy one get one free deal, like I got 12 bars. Yes. David, what have you been stacking on?
Well, I just gotta say that the 70, the kid snack is that's trouble. Like anytime I go buy stuff for my kids, especially if I'm hungry when I'm going to buy kids stuff, it's over. And I know when I'm buying it, they're not gonna see it because I'm gonna be eating it. So, and Grayson with Target and Trader Joe's, it sounds like we shop in similar circles. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so the school year started for me, and having 160 kids in my classroom all the time with COVID and everything, I'm trying to like learn new habits about when I'm wearing my mask and when I can eat and drink coffee. And it's I'm somebody that normally just sits and drinks my coffee all day long, so I've had to find like quick solutions. So Rise Brewing Company creates this iced coffee that's vegan, and they're in these like little 7-ounce containers. It's nitro brew. So I got this one. It's oat milk, as in oats, not goats. Oat milk, and it's mocha flavored. So that's been pretty great. And I can kind of just step out of the classroom for a minute and down some coffee to keep going. And that's been helping a lot, and it tastes delicious. So that's been my snack. Rise Brewing Company.
Nice. Well, for me, I'm just going to focus on one thing. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you may have seen the Nutella cheesecake. When I tell you that if Jesus didn't die for your sins, this cheesecake did. It was amazing. I literally, me and the Holy Spirit looked at each other just like we need to go to the cook and find out how y'all made this, because this anointings right here, it literally was so good. Like it tastes like it tastes like an Oreo kind of pie, but so much smooth and so good. Like we went up and got 4 pieces. And then literally was looking, making sure that people didn't touch it. And so when they put more down, we went up to go get some more. It was amazing. We were just like, I need the recipe for this. I need to buy it. Like I wanted them to make a whole pie. I would have paid $25 to walk out with this pie. That cheesecake was, I sat in my chair and had to think over my life for a good minute. And it was just like, wow. I've never tasted cheesecake like this.
Wow.
Ed, did you have coffee or anything with it?
No coffee with it. I've never had cheesecake with coffee.
I don't know how you ate 4 slices without coffee. That's so sweet. Like I need the bitter to balance it out.
It was, you literally could eat it in 2 bites. It was that smooth. Like you tasted it and it just melt and it was gone. So you didn't have time to drink anything. Like and the pieces were so small. It was just like, I gotta go up and get another one. I gotta go back and get another one. They ran out. Oh, 5 minutes had passed. They put a whole bunch of plates out. Let's get another one. Gotta get another one. And literally just sat back and like it stuck. And I was just like, I don't think I've ever tasted any kind of cheesecake like this anywhere. Like they outbeat Sara Lee. They outbeat your grandmama's favorite recipe. like
Talk about my grandma. I'm just kidding.
Like literally, like I said, me and the Holy Spirit was just like, this anoints us right here. I don't. Jesus, are you sure that you forgot to add this for communion? Because it was so good, I couldn't stop eating it. I was just like, wow. So the Nutella cheesecake, holiness. That is. I would literally drive the 2.5 hours just to go back to that place just to try that.
Wow, you got me sold on that flavor. I already looked up on Pinterest a recipe for Nutella cheesecake, so I'm gonna give that a shot.
Perfect.
Yes. Well, everybody, that has been Stacktendo. Now it's time for Game Fact Events. David, give us the facts.
All right. Thanks, Ed. So, Ghostbusters Afterlife, a new film from Ghostbusters franchise, is set to release November 11, 2021. But do you know the history of the original Ghostbusters films and the corresponding game for the Nintendo Entertainment System? So I had to look this one up because I heard people talking about the game the other day, and it reminded me of how hard that game felt as a kid. And I wishing that I could play it again and thinking about the new film coming out. So Ghostbusters is a licensed game by Activision based on the movie of the same name. It was designed by David Crane and released for several home computer systems in 1984 and later for video game consoles, including the Atari 2600, Master System, and Nintendo Entertainment System. But the primary target was actually the Commodore 64. In 1984, after the film Ghostbusters had been launched, John Dolgan, VP of Business Development at Columbia Pictures, approached Gregory Fishbach, president of Activision International and subsequently the CEO and co-founder of Acclaim Entertainment. And he offered to license the game's rights to Activision without specific rules or requests for the design or content of the game, only stipulating that it was to be finished as quickly as possible in order to be released while the movie was at peak popularity. Activision was forced to complete the game and the programming in only 6 weeks, in contrast to their usual several-month development. Activision had a game at the time, which is a rough concept for a driving maze game called Car Wars, and it was decided to build the Ghostbusters game from Car Wars. So both the movie and the game proved to be huge successes. And now, of course, the game kind of is infamous for bad game design, but people really feel sentimental about it. So that was from Richard Camfield from Retro Gamer. Have you guys played the original NES Ghostbusters, and did you enjoy it?
So I didn't play it. I had the Master System version of it. And I played that one where you had to reach a certain amount of money to like buy certain cars and equipment, like your traps and everything. There was a little town that you would move around, and with the Ghostbusters sign, the land on and stuff. And if you see some ghost effect in the building, you would go there, drive around, come to a stop, and then go in and try to stop the ghosts and collect them and stuff. And of course, you dealt with the Marshmallow Man too, also.
Yeah.
So, and the end goal is that you got to try to defeat Zool. And if you didn't have a certain amount of money, because all the ghosts come to like is it the state empire?
Yeah, the Empire State Building.
State building. If you didn't have enough money or was well prepared to go there, they will all come and it will end your gang. So I played it on the Sega Master System.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had to look it up now on YouTube just because as an adult all these years later, I wonder if the game was actually that hard or if I just, you know, wasn't good at it as a kid. And the entire game can be completed in 18 minutes, but it's still talked about as just terrible game design. So anyway, so that was our Game Fact Advance today.
Yes.
Wow.
Nice.
Did you guys play Greysun or Stephanie? Or
Nope. I don't think I've ever even seen a Ghostbusters film.
Oh,
So,
seriously?
No, yeah. I've never gotten to like the whole series. So that's okay. So that game was like, it was bad when it came out. Like, was it known to be like a bad game?
I mean, it sold a lot of copies, but I think it's because the film was so popular. Because it made no sense, and it's like a classic example of jamming a game that's meant to be something else into, you know, like these sort of mass-produced video games based on films that never turn out to be very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't played the game, but I think it's just more of a timing thing of like growing up and my parents heavily restricting my video game usage. But I watched the original Ghostbusters. I think I kind of fell off when they started doing remakes just because I'm now old and stubborn and I'm very hesitant to watch any remakes of any kind of movie. I'm not, you know. And you know, my son is just getting into the Ghostbusters song, so we jam to that every ride. But anyway, so not the games timing wise. I'm excited for the movie that's coming out in November because I think part of it has to do with it's like the descendants, right? It's the kids or grandkids or whatever. So that's cool.
Yeah.
That goes. And who knows? Maybe they'll come out with a better quality game to go with it or a spinoff. Who knows?
Yes. You got to watch the cartoons. You got to show him the cartoons too. The Ghostbusters.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. Yes.
Yes.
If they just copied like Luigi's Mansion, I feel like, you know, that's something.
There you go.
Seriously.
I mean, if you can't make a good game, I feel like just take from a different game, you know.
Have Slimer driving the bus like Toad, and you'll be good to go. Well, everybody, we're going to get into Femi News. Once again, David, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Ed. So limited edition Pokemon and Oreo packs are now available for pre-order. This is from Kieran Harris at GameReactor.eu. Oreo has revealed that it has teamed up with Pokemon to produce some limited edition biscuits sporting some of the franchise's most popular creatures. The biscuits feature the design of 16 Pokemon, including Pikachu, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, and they can now be pre-ordered at the time of the article's publication and will be in retail stores starting September 13th, today. Along with the biscuits, an art installation of a pixelated Pikachu constructed out of 3D replicas of Oreo cookies will be placed on LA's Venice Beach Boardwalk from September 7 to October 3. Oreo will be providing photos and updates on their social channels for anyone unable to make the visit. So, for consideration, is Pokemon Nintendo's most marketable IP? And what has led us to this point that we are now pre-ordering cookies? How hard do you think it will be to collect these? So, Greysun, we'll start with you. What do you think about this?
First of all, yeah, I'm pretty sure Pokemon is probably the most marketable thing they have. I just think that franchise spans so much. You know, when you have the trading card game, the TV show, the games, like there are so many different avenues that franchise tackles. Like I feel like this is such a smart idea. And I think it's just because this comes because of like all this trading card fiasco that's been going on with people, charging so much money and YouTubers are buying the cards, but then like, people are getting hurt at Target and fighting for them and stuff. And, they've had to limit customers on how much they can order, which is crazy. But I think that the same thing will happen with this. Like, even though it's like an edible thing, I don't think that matters. I feel like there are people who just want to have the special rare, because there's like a rare, there's rare like designs that are only found in like a very small amount of the cookies. So yeah, there's gonna be like, I think there's gonna be crazy, and there's gonna be some issues, for sure. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it is.
But we can count on it.
Yeah.
Stephanie, we were just talking about parent snacks and snacks for kids earlier. You plan on trying to snag some of these Pokemon cookies, and what are your general thoughts on this?
Yeah, for sure. Anything that I can snag as long as they don't sell out. My son is very vaguely aware of Pokemon. Like he knows Pikachu. I grew up with the initial craze of Pokemon, so and I don't recall if there's anything specific food-wise back then. But it's just the craze repeating itself. There's all sort. Pokemon has been a very merchandise-heavy um,
Franchise.
IP franchise. Thank you. I don't know why I had a brain fart over that. Because I would say Mario is also extremely marketable. I mean, they just had that Lego set, and I feel like that's just such a worldwide name that anyone, even that's not a gamer, recognizes Mario. But I think the thing about Pokemon is there is a lot more Pokemon. There's a collector's mindset versus Mario's just an icon or representative of Nintendo. So that's where I think Pokemon was, a wise choice. It's going to be popular. It's going to be hot. I know people will pre-order it. I don't know if it'll be as teeth-grindingly difficult to get as maybe a Zelda Loftwing amiibo, but I definitely will be trying to pick up one and see what I get.
Yeah. Ed, what do you think? Do you agree with what Stephanie and Grayson said? Is Pokemon Nintendo's most marketable IP?
Well, yeah, because it has a universal language to it that anyone could pick up and play and understand what it is, and it's been popular ever since the first game came out worldwide, and it's just been doing numbers. So with this, and I would let everybody know that I already pre-ordered 2 packages already. So
you're the problem, Ed.
Well, I pre-ordered them before the story came out because they were just like Oreo said, pre-orders are now being taken, and I have to say they're $5 plus. There's $5 each plus tax. The shipping, if you want the shipping, is $7 some.
Whoa.
So you're gonna end up spending about $13 to $15 plus, depending on what you get. So I got 2 packages, so I'm just waiting for them to come in so I could taste them, show them off, and then definitely have one to show for Snacktendo. So I did put it in. So I literally ended up spending about $20 on these, or just 2 of them. But yeah, I think Pokemon is it's just so marketable. It's so easy. I mean, just look, we got Pokemon TV that came to Switch, and that lets you know that it got its own app, even with the Pokemon Direct that we seen last month or a while back, that just spoke to a lot of people. Look, they're still doing animations and stuff about that Growlithe character. So it just shows you how much marketable it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see on Etsy or something someone already made a plush or keychain about it. So yeah, Pokemon is definitely a big franchise that is marketable to anybody.
Well, I think you all make good points, and Stephanie, you brought up that Pokemon's kind of the perfect franchise to pick because people have a collector's mindset already just based on what the games are, and I think that really does feed well into the marketing. I'll just also point out that we're seeing an increase in scalpers buying stuff up, being shocking demand for Nintendo stuff. But I think one thing that's not getting talked about enough is that gamers are just getting older, right? So people's expectations of what demand should be is rooted in them seeing these things as children's stuff, right? But for a lot of gamers who are adults, it's not just, like as adults, we're excited about these things as well. And so I wonder at some point if society will start to have different expectations, and we'll see either increase in supply, because that is a way that society's changing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's check out this next story. So how every single Metroid amiibo works in Metroid Dread explained. So this is from Brian at NintendoEverything.com. Over on Nintendo's Japanese website, additional details are provided regarding amiibo features in Metroid Dread. It covers how the original Metroid series, as well as the Super Smash Bros. Figures, work in-game. Here's the full rundown. So just for a point of reference really quick, the Samus and Emmy new amiibos will allow players to receive an extra tank to increase your health by 100 and to replenish some health once per day. Players will also be able to receive a missile plus tank increasing capacity to 10 and replenish missiles once per day. The Samus Aran, Samus from Smash Brothers, and Zero Seat will also allow players to once per day replenish health. And finally, the Ridley and Dark Samus ones will replenish missiles once per day. So this past summer, there was a significant amount of outrage over the Zelda and Loftwing amiibo from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which grants players fast travel, a feature not otherwise available in the game. With all the hype around Metroid Dread, is Nintendo finally doing this right with the amiibos this time by creating these sort of secondary perks that you can only use once a day? What do we think about the way these amiibo functionalities have worked out? Greysun, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this Metroid Dread amiibo functionality is fine. You know, I don't think it's as bad as like Skyward Sword, when I felt like people were upset because Nintendo was sort of holding back a quality of life feature that was something that we really wanted, that wasn't in the original game. I think this is fine. It's Nintendo has always been they've always specialized in making sure that games are for everyone. So I think for someone who's this first time playing a Metroid game, I think it's cool that they have the opportunity to say, hey, I have these amiibos, and if I'm struggling on this boss or something, just scan that sucker in, and you can get some health, get some extra missiles. I don't think it's anything that anyone should be like upset about or anything like that. This is sort of like what I expect actually from like most first party titles now, especially since like they haven't done too much with amiibo lately. But yeah, I think this is fine for Metroid. It makes sense. I don't really know what else they could do with amiibos. So yeah.
I'll jump in just to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I'm somebody who actually wishes amiibos would do more, and I have a pretty substantial amiibo collection. At least Legend of Zelda ones is kind of the primary ones that I collect. And I get the idea that key content shouldn't be behind a paywall. I've always felt like part of the issue with that is really about supply, Nintendo shorting things all the time and making it unavailable. But also, like, as amiibos become more complicated, they're going up in base price, right? They're no longer just $9.99 or whatever, $15. They're going up, and so I kind of wish Nintendo would incorporate them a bit more, or even just like I think Breath of the Wild really did a great job with that, where you got new skins or armor sets that did add some to the game and were exclusive, and it made it worth going and getting those. I feel like just reloading your ammo once a day is like, it's really just at that point, I think, becomes about the figurine and nothing else. But Ed, what about you? Are you somebody that uses amiibo, and what do you think about this?
So I do collect amiibo. I don't use it that often or anything, but I like the fact that it has this benefit that not only is a collector's item, that it does have some kind of functionality with the games that you play. I think what they're doing with Metroid, with this one, I think it's going to be good, because I think for people who may play and may find it hard or difficult, we don't know yet, they may use these amiibos to help even out the balance in the challenge and stuff. I'm glad that they limited one day that you could use it, so it could be like you don't keep just using it so you could beat the game. That it doesn't give you no challenge or anything. So I love the way that they're doing amiibo. And people still go out. You'll start to notice something once you start seeing a certain amiibo is being brought, whether it's for a game or not. When you see a certain amiibo that's being brought, you be like, oh, that was something about that's becoming popular for some apparent reason. Because like, I think what happened is that definitely working at Toys back in the day, Nintendo could produce all that amiibo, and if it's stuck there on the shelves, they're missing out on a lot of money, and that's what happened.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, it happened it happened with a lot of their amiibos. They sent us a lot, and it just stayed on shelves for years. And like maybe there was a game that needed an amiibo, definitely during the Wii U days. 2 or 3 people might buy it But I'm like, a lot of that they overproduced, it stayed on shelves. The Shovel Knight ones stayed on shelves for almost 4 months, and Shovel Knight was popular for years.
Well, I mean, I would argue though that a lot, like especially those Animal Crossing ones, like you couldn't give those away by the end. Like they're, but you know, part of the thing is they didn't really do anything. Like they were really worthless. As somebody who plays a lot of Animal Crossing, like I wish that, and that's where I feel like if Nintendo allowed them to do more unique things, it might make them more of a draw.
It was because of the cards that they had at that time too. The cards were selling out more than the amiibo itself.
They were cheaper. The other thing I was just going to point out, you were talking about the once per day limit. Super Mario 3D World had their customized amiibos as well, but you could use those every single level as many times as you want. So it's kind of an interesting, you know, counterbalance to like Catsuit Mario, I think, and Catsuit Peach would give you invincibility on every level. So it's like basically an easy mode. And I actually think that's a better use of amiibos. Stephanie, let's get you in on this. Your final thoughts on this story. Are you somebody that collects or uses amiibo?
No, and I kind of wish I started before some of them kind of got really, you know, crazy with sales, and I'm not sure kind of what makes some, you know, sell like hotcakes and what doesn't, you know, other than how much Nintendo produces. But the only one I have is the Archer Link from Breath of the Wild. And then I tried to get Zelda and Loftwing, and I experienced a lot of rage there when I couldn't get it. And then so when for Metroid Dread, I also kind of missed the mark on the new ones because I was like debating with myself. I'm like, but I don't use the amiibo, but I need it, but I don't. And then it sold out. So when I found out that they were going to reuse some of the older Metroid amiibo, I went and pre-ordered Dark Samus and Ridley. So I'm a little like disappointed just to find out that they both do the same thing. So like, but I'm not gonna go on Twitter and bash Nintendo for that. Like there's a difference between like having a little bit of mild disappointment, like, oh, I got 2 amiibo and I thought maybe they'd do like a little bit more or different. But it is what it is, you know?
Right. And before we go, that one amiibo will go on to various games. So just don't think it's just Metroid Dread. You got still Metroid Prime 4. So those amiibos may also do something for that game also. Definitely with
That's
Mario.
A great point.
That I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize, that yes, you are spending this much for that one amiibo, but it's going to be for various games within that series.
That's a great point, Ed. And I know I already said it, but just to kind of wrap this story up, I really hope that Nintendo uses Breath of the Wild as the model for amiibos going forward, because not only with the different armor sets that had unique function, but being able to play alongside of Wolf Link in the game, like there was just some really creative uses of it, and I hope that they go back to that. So. All right, so this is one that I have a personal connection to as somebody who donated this, and I feel really bummed about it. I'm curious what everybody else's take is. Hand-drawn game guides ends Kickstarter project. So this is directly from Hand-drawn game guides and Philip Summers, the head of that. Hand-drawn game guides has canceled an upcoming release of hardcover special editions of guides for the original Legend of Zelda, Ninja Gaiden, Metroid, and Contra. Check out the message from Philip Summers, head of Hand-drawn game guides. He said, quote, "It was always a risk. Tonight I pulled the plug on Hand-drawn game guides Kickstarters. Yes, for exactly the reason you think it's for. I hope that I could successfully navigate any legal trouble, but alas, I wasn't able to do so. Is this done for good? I don't know yet. I'll be finding out in the coming days. What I do know is that last month was awesome. You all came together in ways I didn't think was possible. It was a hell of a ride, and no matter what happens, I'll always be grateful for it. I always knew this whole thing was a big risk, but I looked at how other similar books navigated these sorts of issues and tried my best to learn from them. Of course, I'm disappointed, but I completely understand why this happened. It's okay. I'm not mad. And I mean, the timing is really awful, and I wish I would have known, say, 3 weeks ago, but here we are. I won't speak any more on this subject because I don't want to muddy the waters. Thank you all for your support." All right. So for consideration, a lot of people, myself included, were really looking forward to this project. With other companies like Prima Game Guides making similar guides that have directly competed with Nintendo for years, Many found this shutdown to be quite shocking. Have we reached a point where this is becoming a problem, specifically that companies like hand-drawn game guides are pulling content out of fear that Nintendo will issue a C&D? So Summers later clarified that the party only raised concerns. It did not actually issue any legal action. So, really the heart of this, I think for me, and I think for a lot of folks, and I want to get your take on this, how is it that we have companies like Prima producing game guides, or even, Greysun, you're somebody that writes game guides online for Fortnite. These are, in essence, for-profit things that compete directly with Nintendo, and yet we see Nintendo throwing its weight around. Ed, let's get your hot take here, and we'll bring everybody else in.
Okay, so he did say, I think he also later clarified that he is working with that party to find out on how he can go about it. So there's a possibility that it could still be happening. So just want to say that. I think it's when you don't get the license from Nintendo to work on their products and do this stuff. That's when the C&D kind of comes in. This is separate from people just doing fan projects and making full games out of their assets or things like that. That's completely different. I think with this one, because it is a guide and stuff, I think the concern is probably are you making money off of this guy and using our IP, because you got to get a license. You got to get the permission in order to do that. With Prima guys, they had the permission from Nintendo to do these. And they were making money as a business, and Nintendo was also making money because they would probably get the game early, so then for them to do the guys. So there was a contract there with it. I think with this, I think it still can happen. I don't think you need a guide for Metroid. I don't think you need a guide for Zelda. I think what he should have did was do guides for other Nintendo games or games on the Nintendo system that have nothing to do with Nintendo. I would love to see a guide on Kung Fu. I would love to see a guide on Akira Warriors or Bad Dudes. I would love to see a Double Dragon guide. If you're gonna go all that retro stuff, you could do things with games that have been on the Nintendo system without doing anything Nintendo related. Of course, everybody want to see the guides for the artwork. They don't really care about how good it's going to help them or anything. They want to see if it's on a nice piece of paper and what kind of artwork or fan artwork that they did for it. That's what I think people wanted to see with that.
Greysun, you, as we mentioned earlier, you write guides for Fortnite right now. Where is that line between something being in the public space and people being able to just talk about it and actually sort of infringing on, a company like Nintendo's rights?
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to talk about because, you're right. Because if I write guides for, a Nintendo game, I feel like Nintendo, if they would like to, I feel like they can just shut all that down. No one's writing any articles about any of our games. But I guess this is an issue for them just because it's some people might see that it was so a few weeks ago we were talking about Nintendo canceling a Smash Brothers tournament that they were showcasing a mod with characters that weren't in the original Smash Brothers game, like Knuckles and stuff. And I think this falls into that same category where Nintendo, if you're doing something that replicates their IP almost like it's from Nintendo itself, I feel like if people were to see that, it's they think that this is a Nintendo created product when it's not. And I guess, Nintendo doesn't know what they're putting in the guide. They don't want them to, put false information perhaps. But like you said, it's the same as me writing a guide online and publishing it right now. It's it's my word on what I'm writing. And it's it could be wrong information. Of course, I strive to be as factual as I possibly can. But yeah, it's such a touchy subject. And Nintendo has been doing this so much to so many fan-made projects. It's just I don't know what they can do anymore. like what Ed said, I feel like they just need to stop doing Nintendo stuff because obviously they're just everything that's coming. And then the thing is, websites are going to cover these things because they're cool and we want to write about them. And that sucks because that means Nintendo is more likely to spot it. So, yeah.
I tried to look this up before the show tonight, and Ed, we'll have to have a follow-up segment on this, but I don't actually think Prima had permission from Nintendo because theirs were published as the unofficial guide, and Nintendo had their own guide at the same time. So I do think they're in direct competition. So obviously we're not all legal experts here, but I think it is an interesting question, and where I get into it being Nintendo kind of throwing its weight around is, hand-drawn game guides is a dude doing some art, selling it on Kickstarter, right? There's no room full of lawyers there to back up his legal right to produce his competitive guide. And, I just wonder if we're starting to see Nintendo really throwing its weight around in almost a bully way, whereas it wouldn't maybe take on a company like Prima Guides because they would have the money to fight back. I don't know. Stephanie, you're somebody that, as an author, you're connected to the writing industry. What is your reaction to Nintendo kind of squashing this? Is this squashing free speech, or is it really sort of infringing on their property with these hand-drawn game guides?
Well, I think this is a really good segue kind of from what you were saying. Just my initial knee-jerk reaction with hand-drawn game guides and Summers is, I feel bad just because he's an individual. It's just a small project. I can guarantee you, if he went through with The Legend of Zelda, it's not going to make a dent in Nintendo's profit. It's a passion project. It's not I'm going to screw Nintendo over and just make my own thing. No, I think this is just purely out of passion because he loves doing these things. He loves art. He loves these games. And like I said, small business. But I will give Summers credit. Not that I would like to criticize other people, but I just think he's definitely being smart and cautious because, like you said, he doesn't have a team of lawyers. So he's thinking ahead of time, like, all right, well, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with this. And like Ed said, it's not completely shut out. But like I said, he has the foresight to stop now and figure out the issues first instead of trying to dig himself out of a, crap hole. But then on the business side, I'm like, okay, technically Nintendo owns the property. It's just your basic copyright type things. So it's like, I'm very torn, honestly. It belongs to Nintendo. It's technically Nintendo's. But on the other hand, it's like, I kind of don't feel like it just kind of doesn't give me just the best feeling that Nintendo has to do, especially with Sony and Microsoft. I very rarely see them kind of pushing these people around as much. I don't know if I'm talking in circles there, but it's like I'm so conflicted.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Microsoft and Sony, and really we could bring Sega into the conversation, have always been about, hey, you love our stuff? Great. We'll take the free advertising, and it's always Nintendo. One thing I'd like to bring in, I've been studying copyright law a little bit for my editing program that I'm in. And right now, the law for most books is 70 years after the author's life is how long it's protected. I think we need to start having conversations about video games and copyrights and being public domain at some point. And I think it should be a lot less time because the rate at which technology changes around books, it makes sense that it's 70 years plus the life of the author. In video games, 15 years is an eternity, right? So I think you could make the argument that okay, the original Legend of Zelda is 35 years old. We're at the point now where maybe we should be talking about that as public domain. It should be available for everyone. And it would be nice if we could get some clarity around laws like that. What do you guys think of that?
I think the thing is confusion with that. Because even if it did to go to public domain, people might take that game, mod it, and might do something with it. And then parents who don't know nothing about modding, don't know anything about video games, they're going to blame Nintendo for all of this stuff. For something that they had nothing to do with it. And I think that's the fear that happens. And when something like that happens, that affects Nintendo's business. Oh, you modded The Legend of Zelda for this to be a naughty game? Nintendo, I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to buy any of your games for your console because you did this. With Nintendo not knowing that we didn't do nothing. The game is public domain. The people took this game and did something to our property that we made.
I mean, in fairness, Ed, it would be 8-bit naughty. So
well,
it doesn't count then.
Yeah. But some parents don't think about parents don't think about games that way that adults who have been playing with games, who have studied games, would know anything about it. You know, you guys mentioned the Sony and Microsoft. The problem with that is that no one cares about Sony and Microsoft. Why? How many cease and desist stories have you seen that they have done for fans to be talking about? Only fan game that I know from Microsoft is a 2D Halo shooter, like Contra. I know nothing about Sony. I know more cease and desist stuff with Nintendo products because they know that Nintendo games is going to give them a spotlight or even a step into the industry because of Nintendo IPs being that popular. So I think Nintendo's just like, we want to protect not only our games, but we want to protect our business. Because if we don't, we're going to get blamed. Rockstar is a good example for it. The hot coffee thing that happened, that was a PC mod, and Rockstar got blamed and sued for that. And Rockstar did nothing about that. They had to stop selling the PS2 version because the ESRB was going to rate it adults only. That's the thing Nintendo is trying to avoid with that.
Sure. Greysun and then Stephanie, any closing thoughts on this idea that old video games should be public domain?
I mean, yeah, I think they should. I mean, because we have mods, you know, and Nintendo never really takes those down, I feel like. And that's sort of the same thing that Ed was talking about, where if someone were to do something to the original Zelda, it's like people do that, and they do it to like Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker and stuff. So I don't know, like, it would be cool if people can do that and not get sued their whole life for it, you know? And like you said, like 15 years is like over 2 console generations, basically. So it's like things just progress crazy in the video game or tech world. So like, I don't know why Nintendo would be so fixated on not letting anyone touch like any of their old games. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah.
Stephanie?
I think it would make for an interesting discussion, as video games, you know, like with books, are consumable media. It's an interactive story, right, with visuals, audio, and all that stuff. But obviously that would require very certain types of criteria, what can and cannot be done, you know, public domain. So like, I feel like it would be a good discussion to have, and I wish people would be open to talking about it. Obviously, it still needs to be treated a little differently than novels or books or whatever, but I think it's worth having that conversation, or at least have something maybe that can protect like fan fiction or well, I'm going to use that very loosely, fan fiction or stuff like that. Like just a quick like side thing is my novel was a fan fiction of Ocarina of Time, and I'm like, I really want to put this out there, but obviously I'm not going to use the same characters. How to change everything, but that's written media. You know, video games, whole different kind of animal, but I think we're in 2021. We've been through multiple generations of video games. We need to worry about video game preservation. That's a topic that we're talking about. So I just think we need to start having that conversation.
I love your connection to video game preservation. We should definitely have a doc mode on that sometime, Ed. Our last story today, PlatinumGames wants to show Bayonetta 3, but it's not up to them to say when and where. So this is also from Brian at NintendoEverything.com. Quote, despite a lack of news surrounding Bayonetta 3, the game has most definitely not been canceled, and PlatinumGames is again looking to assure fans that things are going well. VGC asked Hideki Kamiya about that in a recent interview, in which he stated it was more of a not definitely something will come out this year, but if there is a year, then something should happen, right? If you remember last time, I said that not even though everyone was asking about Bayonetta 3, maybe you should tell someone or everyone to forget about it for a while. I kind of need to keep to that stance for now because ultimately it's not our decision what to say and when to say it. As much as everyone is clamoring to see it, we are really, really waiting to release it too. Everyone who is working on this project is, of course, very proud of what we're doing and wants to see what we're doing. As much as fans are waiting for it, we are waiting every day as well for when we can show it. We want everyone to cheer us on as we run to the final stretch. We want to show it too! Exclamation points. Atsushi Inaba, the head of Platinum Game, also said that fans don't need to worry. Don't worry about it this time, he said. Everything's okay. All right, panel.
Sure.
Reactions. What's Nintendo's plan with this game, and when do you think we'll finally see it? Ed, we'll start with you.
So, I love this. I already do, because it's Nintendo's money. Then they, once again, like I said, they're shutting up until they feel like it's ready. And definitely with them doing Astral Chain and doing their Automata and Reincarnation and doing all of this stuff for other projects, it probably took people away from Bayonetta 3 for them to focus on. So now that all of those projects are done and out, they could get back to working on Bayonetta 3 and coming in and making sure it's the best game. Nintendo is testing this game to make sure that everything is right. They're still giving Platinum Games the freedom to do anything. It could be sexy, it could be violent, it could be bunkers as crazy. But they seen what happened with Bayonetta 2. That game wasn't revealed it came to Wii U. And they shut up about that game for almost 2.5 years. And then when it came out, everybody was just like, this is game of the year. And still to this day, when they see Bayonetta smash, they were just like, yeah, we want it. We want more of this. So Nintendo knows what they're doing. They're like, we give you guys the right to make the game. They're using our money. We just don't want you to say anything about it, because if you spill the beans, it's going to ruin our marketing plan that we have this. We want to roll this game out right. We want people to really play this and experience a great story, great graphics. They still want it to laugh, but also just be like, it's top A quality. They don't want this to be Bayonetta 1 again, where it's so good, but it had a lot of problems on both consoles. They want to make sure that when it comes out, it's 1080p or whatever, it's 60 frames per second, and you really are getting a good story with bunker fights, boss fights, and everything. They want to make sure that everything is right. Nintendo comes in and they play, and they'll be like, you need to work on this, you can change this, you can fix that. And once that's good to go, when it's complete, they'll put it out, and I think everybody will be like, finally, now we know why they didn't say nothing. And maybe it will become Game of the Year. They're trying to go for a 1 million plus sale for this game. And the way that Nintendo has been selling games on one console compared to everybody else, Bayonetta has a chance to hit that 1 million plus within the weekend. Look.
Ed, I mean, we've talked a lot about, Nintendo's model of being tight-lipped about games right up until they're ready to go. And, looking at what's happened to some other games, it doesn't seem like such a bad model. Stephanie, what are your reactions to this story?
I too gotta love the way the message read out. I was like rereading it a couple times before the show, and I'm like making sure I understood everything. I don't know if there's really much I could add other than kind of what Ed's been saying. Like just selfishly, I kind of wish that I'm still hoping for the September Direct. When is this happening? I thought it'd be tomorrow. That they might like tease something about it, but that's just like that would have been one of my wild predictions. I don't think it's really going to happen. But yeah, that's the only thing I really have to add, because I feel like Ed kind of covered a lot of my points.
Greysun, closing thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much what Ed said. Like, I think Nintendo just wants this to be a really good Bayonetta game. Bayonetta 2 didn't sell, I'm sure as well as they wanted it to because of the sales of the Wii U. So maybe even if the game is ready at this point, maybe Nintendo is just not ready to release it with their current lineup. I think they have a solid, not the best holiday lineup, but they have a lot of little games here and there, like WarioWare and stuff to fill in the gap, and Metroid Dread, which is like a huge release. But maybe they're just not ready to put it out. Like, it doesn't fall in line with their plans. I think we'll see it I want to see it like fall of next year. Hopefully, that could be a big fall game, and Zelda could be their big spring game, hopefully, crossing my fingers. That doesn't get pushed back again. But yeah, I think that could be a really cool holiday title for Nintendo. Definitely not like, it's not going to be a Pokemon game on, that scale of sales. But I could totally see this being like the best-selling Bayonetta game, perhaps, which is really cool to see. I think it'll bring in a lot of new players. Yeah, I think they're just like holding it for now. So we'll see when they would decide to release it.
One other thing I think could play a factor, and maybe this is just my speculation, but Bayonetta definitely falls outside of the Nintendo bell curve for family-friendly games. And I just wonder... I wonder how careful they're being with a game like that, or even the next Metroid Prime game, because it says something about their brand a little bit. Like if either of those games come out that are more serious, more adult games, and they flop, it solidifies Nintendo as, it's the kid console, right? Like it's they can't do adult games. So I do wonder how much more care Nintendo is taking with these games. It seems like they're just mass producing Pokemon games these days, and there seems to be less risk. Ed, do you have a thought on that?
Just a last thought. Bayonetta has become a gay icon, and Nintendo and Platinum don't realize it because, like, when you with the artwork, the way that she walked and talked and stuff, there was a lot of gay gamers talking about how she is a queen, how she is a diva, how she is iconic, and people still to this very day use Bayonetta. Definitely with her music, they still use her as a icon for them. Definitely the gay community who knew that this would be not representative, but that people will be so like fall in love into a character like this. Like she is a Mario brother kind of icon for the gay community, for a lot of gay gamers. So they want to make sure that when the game comes out, and Nintendo and Platinum probably don't know this, but in America, when it comes out, I bet you probably a lot of gay gamers and some hetero gamers too are going to go out and really support this game to see what is she doing. How powerful is Bayonetta? Is she twirling on a horse, kicking angels, and doing all this wild stuff, and then just being goofy about her sexuality and stuff, but also just being able to walk and look good doing it? Like a lot of people gonna be like, this is crazy, this is funny, but she's a queen and she's owning her power. And a lot of people from the gay community love that.
Thanks, Ed. That's fantastic. I appreciate everybody on the panel, and great stuff today. We went a lot of places in this conversation. So, Ed, it's all you. Back to you.
All right. Everybody, it is time for Doc Mode. It's been a while since we had a Nintendo discussion. Last week, Sony had their PlayStation Games Showcase. A few weeks ago, Microsoft showed off some indie games coming to their platform. For today's Doc Mode, I want to ask the Elite Block agents, why should Nintendo players and fans play or experience other platforms? Why is it important to see their creativity, storytelling, and their ideas of fun? So, we're going to be talking about PC, PlayStation, Xbox, maybe Stadia and Luna. We're going to talk all things about them and kind of less Nintendo for this discussion. Like I said, it's a Nintendo.
Super excited for this. Does that mean like Crossroads and Arsenal X will finally shut up about trash talking power?
They do it because of me. So
I don't know. Every time I listen to the Crossroads PlayStation podcast, they're always having to talk about Nintendo when sales and stuff comes up. So you know,
hey, Nintendo's running things, so you could talk trash about them, but they're getting their coins. like I said. For last episode, like I was telling David, that's crazy that Ratchet & Clank is 11 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a game that's been out for years, it's still killing it.
All right, we're gonna hear about this later.
So let's get into this discussion. I'm gonna start with you, Stephanie. Why do you think that Nintendo fans or players need to experience games outside of Nintendo? Or the other platforms, I should say.
I just think that it's a general rule in life that you just need to experience variety. Now, that is not to say Nintendo does not provide variety, as they've clearly proven themselves in the last years that, for example, their indie market, like that's exploded. Like they have their Indie World Showcase. But yeah, so Nintendo, I always identify Nintendo with a very, very strong IPs, very, very good first party titles, now known for doing well with indie developers and working well with them. And then again, they do have their family friendly kind of identity, but now also with the Switch, the docked and the on the go mode. But basically, you know, Sony and Microsoft, for example, have a lot to offer that's still very diverse. You know, Sony, I also identify as one with very strong IPs, so to speak. They're third person action adventure that I've fallen in love with personally myself. And even then some, like I don't have an Xbox, but lately what I've seen Xbox, especially with their indies that they are supporting, I'm like, my wallet, I just might as well go and throw my money out the window. So just in general, I think you need experience, a lot of variety. It's good for you, opens up your mind. Perhaps you'll enjoy a genre that you never considered before. And you know what? There's something I don't get about a select bit of gamers where they feel like they need to be dedicated to one publisher. It like who the Nintendo police aren't going to come knocking down your door and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you playing? Is that God of War? Is that God of War? Like, come on. Like, no one's going to tell on you. Just enjoy what everybody's putting out.
Yeah. Hey, Sakurai, when he did his Smash thing, he showed a PlayStation 4 and Xbox, not Series X, but Xbox One. And it literally showed that, oh, he plays a variety of games, on a lot of fighters on different platforms. That kind of shows. Grayson, what did you think about this?
Yeah, so I've been playing Nintendo for pretty much my whole life, and I was a big into the PS2 as well in those games. But like I think the first time I was actually like just wowed by like a major PlayStation exclusive was like the first time I played Uncharted 2 like on a PS3. Like I think I played through that game in like maybe 2 or 3 sittings. You know that game is like pretty lengthy, but like wow, I remember being like blown away by the cinematics and the cutscenes and the characters and their depth and their motion and the voice acting and like motion capture. I'm like, wow, this is crazy, because there was a time when I had a Wii and DS and stuff, and I did not really play a lot of Xbox or PlayStation, so I was kind of like in my little cave. But yeah, once I got a PS3 and stuff, I played Uncharted and I loved Uncharted and God of War and The Last of Us, like that, which is probably like my favorite game of all time, right next to Breath of the Wild. So it's like these games offer, I think, just more engrossing stories and cinematics compared to Nintendo games. And then you have like genres that Nintendo doesn't cover at all. Like you don't really see open world RPGs coming from Nintendo that often. You know, you don't see like really a ton of rhythm games. You know, you have a little bit here and there, but you know, there are some franchises that they cover extensively, and there are some that they don't. And I think that's also just a good reason to explore Xbox and PlayStation, because they, you know, you can play these realistic racing games and realistic first-person shooters. You have, you know, strategy RPGs, whatever, you know. So I think that's what PlayStation and I don't want to say Xbox. I don't really love a lot of Xbox exclusives, but PlayStation, I think, just if you want a really engrossing, if you really want good stories and narratives, you know, they really have the best of the bunch, I think, for those type of games. So,
all right, David, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with everything that you all said about, you know, variety and whatnot. And I think for casual gamers especially, I think that's really important. I want to speak to something that I think maybe for more serious gamers and maybe even just a narrower band of people. Yet I really feel like video games are art, and I feel really passionate about that. And I know not everybody cares about this, but I really want our medium to be taken seriously. And I say our medium because, you know, I don't write video game stories, but video games are the only medium of art that is participatory, that you take part in it, right? You know, you defeat the boss. You don't observe the boss like you would or read about the boss. You are a part of that medium of art. And I feel really passionate about that. And I think it's important, you know, for folks who have a love for video games to appreciate all that the medium has to offer, to not get, pigeonholed in one aspect of video games, but to experience, even, a lot of people kind of dismissed first-person shooters or third-person shooters, but I think you could make the argument, even those kinds of games, there's an art form to them. And I just think it's important to experience that, especially as we all collectively are getting older and we're sort of deciding how society thinks about video games. I think it should be taken seriously. So
I love that you said that, because I'm a huge supporter of video games as art. And I know that if there's a developer that just wants, like, I call it mental chewing gum, whether it's magazines or games, like, yeah, that exists and there's a place for that. But I think people should accept the fact that video games can be art forms. Absolutely. And I think maybe the only thing that might prevent people from exploring maybe other console related games, and has nothing to do with games themselves, is maybe price. Like, for the longest time, I'm like a 2 console person, and usually I'm a generation behind purely because I cannot afford it. But like, if I had the ability to, and it's not an access issue, I'd own a Switch, I'd own a PS5 if I was lucky enough, and an Xbox Series X. I want to. I've never been a first-person shooter type person. I never thought I was good at it, but you know what? I want that Far Cry 6. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think for me, once the Supreme Court said that video games is protected under the First Amendment because it is art, I think that really, definitely for us as gamers, took some relief off of it. Like, you can't ban it, you can't censor it, but you depending on how that publisher or developer goes about that game and what they can and can't do. I think for me, it is weird because my first system that went outside of Nintendo was a TurboGrafx 16. My brother, he had the Sega Genesis, so I was getting, both worlds. And my mom, she had the Atari series, so I played that. But like for me, I was a Nintendo kid till I got my TurboGrafx 16. And I think once I started buying my own games and systems and going multi-platform, I kind of understood that there are stories that one company can't do that this company can do, where sometimes even games feel better on this console than a Nintendo console. To me, it's never been about the tech. It's never been about for some stuff it has been about graphics, because you would think that if you're on this kind of console, you would have this better graphics. Like it's weird that Halo didn't sell me, or Gears didn't sell me on Xbox One, but it was Ori and the Blind Forest. And it was just like, no one is doing this artwork, like not even Nintendo or anything. It did see in Cuphead, and it was just like, oh wow, you guys are using art that one of my favorite companies are not doing. When it came to PlayStation 3, PlayStation 3 was different because Xbox 360 was breaking down everywhere. So I was just like, I'm not messing with that genre. But it was just like getting the chance to play Heavy Rain and stuff to actually get this narrative where I am making choices, and I love detective noir kind of books and stuff. And it was just like, this is what this game is offering me. And then getting a chance to see all of the stuff that Sony offered, stuff that Nintendo wasn't doing, wasn't presenting, these other companies were. And I think when gamers go out and support these, or even get a chance to play them at a friend's house and like get these experiences, they'll understand narrative. They'll understand why, not graphics, but why art styles really matter and everything. I think a lot of people should open up the horizons instead of just sticking to one thing, because you would literally miss out not on the conversation, but you would miss out on the things and the morals that sometimes games could teach.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the second question. Why is it important to see their creativity, storytelling, and their ideas of fun? David, I'm gonna start with you.
Well, Stephanie said something I thought was kind of interesting about limiting yourself to just one publisher. And if you think about that in other mediums of art, it sounds ridiculous, right? Like, could you imagine only seeing movies from Warner Brothers or like only reading books from Random House? Like, it's just bizarre, right? Like, no one would do that. You would know like that you're missing out on stuff. But for some reason, we have this tribalism with video games where it's like, oh, I only play, Nintendo or whatever. And, I do think price plays a role in that. Like you said, 70, we can't all just appreciate or can't all just go and appreciate Sony or Microsoft, whatever, because you have to kind of make your commitment. But, connected to different styles of fun, and that's one of the things that I like about Xbox. I know that Sony has some really incredible IPs, but for someone whose home is Nintendo, as my secondary console, having Game Pass, which allows me to just try all these other games that are kind of platform games, is awesome. Because then I don't have to worry about price. It's all free, right? If I have Game Pass, and so I can try games like Zombies Ate My Neighbor or whatever that I would never play. But there's, suddenly it's free for me to try. So I like that.
Hey, Greysun, what about you?
I mean, yeah, I just think if you're, like we were talking about earlier, if you limit yourself, it's like you're not really seeing the type of creative games that have been put out there. I'm thinking about, like, I thought about It Takes Two, because I don't think that game's on the Switch, right?
No.
That's a game that came out this year that kind of like blew a lot of people away, like surprised a lot of people. And that game's not on the Switch, and it's cool to see, if people explore their platforms, they can experience games like that aren't available on the Switch, and kind of get an idea of, hey, this is how co-op games can be now. Because Nintendo is a company that, still does a lot of like split screen local cooperative play. And then I think if someone goes and plays It Takes Two, it's like, oh wait, there's actually a lot of things Nintendo could be doing to improve upon like a lot of their games that rely on a multiplayer experience, like side by side. So I think it's stuff like that. It's like there's just so many games, and there's like so many types of games and genres and ideas and stories out there that people just can't limit themselves to one console, unless of course, like Stephanie mentioned, you don't have enough money. That's why I do like the idea of something like Game Pass, like being on Switch one day, but that's like a whole other conversation. But just a way to give people that can't get another console, they can pay a small subscription fee to like check out another publisher's offerings, Yeah.
What about you, Stephanie? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I guess just to kind of wrap this up with a pretty bow, I mean, I kind of, when we're framing the conversation like this, I see Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft as, they're employers employing developers or, working with other developers. So I'm really more focused on the developer themselves, and they kind of end up where they end up. So if we look at something like, and forgive me if we'll be talking about it, the ID at Xbox, like something that stood out to me is Inked: A Tale of Love. Now, granted, now they're on all consoles, but initially came out on Xbox. I when I saw the trailer, I was like, I never thought that there could be a video game done in that style. Or The Big Con, that's a very 90s style artwork and gameplay. I'm just like, never seen that in my years of playing Nintendo and a little bit of my history with PlayStation. But again, like, I'm not sure that's not really a company thing. It's just, I believe, this developer hooked up with Microsoft and they helped them achieve the goal of bringing this art form to life. So.
Could I jump in really quick, Ed?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, just something Stephanie said. You're thinking about indie developers and how much that has become a big part of video games. Video games are no longer teenage, suburban boys. Like that used to be like the club for video, and it's like, so because video games are for everyone now, it's exciting that everyone is getting to tell their story, and so we're getting games that it is like mind-blowing. Like you would never like imagine a game like that, but like video games should be for everyone, so we should have ways to try all these different types of games out.
Yeah, I think it's important for creativity and narration that for people to play these because like Nintendo's good at comedy. Look at the Mario and Luigi games, their role playing games. Like the writing is funny, or even Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door. But then you play something like Portal 2 and you get into the writing of that and you just hear the shadiness, the comedy of that. Like you understand that comedy in games can be done and it don't have to come from one company. It could come from anywhere. I speak about art and I mentioned Ori and I mentioned Cuphead because that's something that when you actually look into art styles that's expanding the genre. The last big art style to me personally was cell shading. And that was even before Wind Waker came out. To see that Sega did that first before other people took it and used it in their games. It was kind of amazing. But then you look at games that deal with partnerships. Of course, I use the Mario Brothers and stuff, but I'm like, you look at um goodness, what is it? What is my favorite game? The Last Guardian. Sorry about that. And how that works. That's a game from Sony that really show the idea of closeness between human and animal, and like no one else was doing that, and making this big grand adventure, but it's just like you feel for the characters, and it's amazing. When I talk about Microsoft and I talk about Quantum Break on how they did with time, and this is from Remedy. They are, they love weird sci-fi kind of things, but the writing is always good. The gameplay, take it or leave it, but they know how to make games, and they are great at presentation for their games. And I think when you experience that on other consoles, you get a deeper meaning of video games. I always talk about Papa and Yo because it dealt with abuse and alcoholism. We didn't get anything with that with Nintendo in previous games. It was always getting a high score, or in later years, getting that achievement, getting on leaderboards and stuff. And that was so important. Now games, they speak in different ways. And you just don't have to hear a voice from Nintendo from their games. You get a chance to hear a voice from everywhere. And it's good that is out there for people to experience, because as much as I recommend a lot of weird games and I'm buying these games and there's some wacky stuff, it's amazing to me that I'm getting a lot of experiences that this one console cannot provide, but I'm getting it from everywhere else. And when I put the controller down after finishing the game, I take a moment in time to be like, I need to talk about this. I need to write about this. I need to make content about this. Like, look how Talk the Walk was born out. We weren't really playing walking simulators, but we found an audience after we talked about what remains of Edith Finch. And then look at how we did with Coffee Talk and how we did with Greed. And it's just like, we didn't know that we could talk about these games in this manner, and there is a community out there, and people who never played these games, they're getting into it because they're hearing a lot of people talk about it and taking something away from it. So I think it's very important for people to go out and play games. If you got Game Pass and you don't have an Xbox, rephrase that. If you want Game Pass and you don't have an Xbox, get it on PC and play those games. Get an Xbox controller and play it that way. You can also play some Sony games on PC if you don't have a PlayStation. Stephanie, you mentioned the yard sale. People are going to find these older games. They could find that system too. They're selling it and experience all of those games from the past into current now. Find out franchises that they never knew that they made love or have questions about. I would say that. But I think it's important that if you are a Nintendo fan or if you just only play Nintendo, I advise go out and experience other games on other platforms, because you literally will find something that is good, that will connect to you, that is not from Nintendo. Look, Death Doors came out for Xbox, and the first thing they say is a Zelda clone. It's Zelda. look how much Nintendo games have influence and is referenced in other games. So you'll still get that, sometimes still get that Nintendo feel, but you still will get some more originality and creativity. Just got to go out there and find it. Any last words, anybody?
The only thing I want to throw out there is, like, again, times are changing. I don't really think we're not in console war territory anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And though I'm not really a big multiplayer fan, but now we have some games that are cross-platform, right?
Yes.
Which is amazing. So we're like slowly but surely closing that gap between like what kind of console you have, and it's more like what kind of diverse set of games you want to experience. So I just want to throw that there.
Yes. David?
I just wanted to add too that having a diverse set of games lets a diverse set of kids know it's okay to be a programmer and to tell your story, right? And we want that, right? Like, it's reciprocal. The more kids go into programming, the better, and more diverse games we get, and that's the direction we should be heading.
Yes. Greysun, anything?
I mean, yeah, like if everybody just plays one type of game, then we'll never get better games. So yeah, play games.
So yeah, everybody play games, experience the games as much as you can everywhere. We're going to get into our last section, playing with power. Stephanie, what have you been playing with power?
Ooh, so I'm really only focusing on 2 games on the Nintendo side, which I can talk about all games I'm playing, but I'll start there. I've started Firewatch, finally.
Yes.
So I'm working through that, and then I'll flip-flop between that and Skyward Sword. I know I'm going at a snail's pace with it, but it's in part because my son loves Zelda. So if there's any video game he's watching me play, like, I'm not gonna have him watch me play Ghost of Tsushima. I'm just not gonna let him watch that. He'll like watch like amazed, like as I'm flying like with my loft wing, and sometimes he wants to play, so I'll give him my left Joy-Con. He'll control where Link's walking, and I'll control like the sword slashing. So, it's going at a snail's pace, but for a reason. I'm just trying to have a shared experience with my son. But yeah, so Firewatch. And then, yeah, the only other game, and that would be on my PS4, would be Ghost of Tsushima. I finally started that. I'm really digging, just the combat is amazing. The beauty and the art. See, that's the thing. If I was just only Nintendo, like, how would I not know about this fantastic? Oh my gosh, I wish I got it when it first came out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna keep going if I don't shut up about it. I'm just basically around those 3 games.
Okay, awesome. Greysun, what are you playing with power?
I've actually also been playing the Ghost of Tsushima, but I've been playing the new Iki Island expansion.
Nice.
It hasn't been like my main game, but yeah, just playing that game is actually very, very relaxing and like almost therapeutic and zen-like for me, because I just walk around and do side quests, and Stephanie, like finding the birds, and you're going in, you're soaking in the tub, you're doing haikus. It's just like, I feel like the action is just like on the side for me at some points, because that game is just so much fun to just walk around that world and follow the wind, and just like, because there are times when I'm just playing, I'm like, I don't even know if this is a side quest or a main quest. I'm just going with the vibes and like playing this. But yeah, that game is just so much fun. Over the weekend, I played Life is Strange: True Colors, which is also on Switch. Well, it's not. I think it got delayed, right, Ed?
So the remasters got delayed. I think that it probably also got delayed with the Switch version.
Which is unfortunate. But I hope it eventually comes out soon. But yeah, I beat it. I finished it. I'm a big Life is Strange fan. The first game is still always my favorite game in the series. Like, I thought this game could maybe top it, but it doesn't. But it's still really good. Very emotional. I think this is probably the Life is Strange game with the best writing. It was developed by Deck 9, and they did Before the Storm, which was like a side, like a shorter episodic series that took place between, I think, Life is Strange 1 and 2, or before Life is Strange 1. I always forget. But the writing is so good, and just like, this game is just, because Life is Strange, I feel like, has always been held back by its graphics. It's always been the character models are kind of like stiff, and the voice acting has been kind of cringy, and it's like very, very slow in the way they talk. But this game has definitely made improvements, and it's like the best technically, like the best technical like technically it's the best game in the series, but I think story wise, it's sort of like the ending kind of like was like meh for me. It wasn't like as climactic as the first game, but the first game's choice at the decision you make at the end is just so impactful for me. Where I'm always gonna remember that because it made me cry. The choice I made made me cry so hard. But yeah, Life is Strange is really good, so I recommend it to anyone. You can also play it if you never played a previous game because it's just like a standalone story, but with like one returning character. But I think that's pretty much it.
All right, that's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
So it's been delayed. All of it's been delayed for Switch. So
that's so weird, and there's no release date. I think either. They're kind of holding it back.
Yeah.
Great. Besides that, we talked about this earlier, but I'm checking out the new Fortnite season. That's been cool. It started today. Yeah, not much to talk about there. It's Fortnite. Yeah. Besides that, I really want to get WarioWare. I was split on buying that or Life is Strange on Friday to play over the weekend. I'm like, you know what? Let me get Life is Strange out of the way because I know it's like, an 8-hour thing or less. So I got that out of the way. And I'm also playing Skyward Sword in the background very slowly. I just finished like the Earth Temple, I think. I did play it when it originally came out, so it still feels kind of new to me though. There are some puzzles where I had to look up like guides for. I'm like, I feel so embarrassed and so stupid. But I remember Skyward Sword having like not hard puzzles, but sometimes it's like very obtuse. So I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. So in the Earth Temple, towards the beginning, when you're in that section like rolling around on that ball, there's like cracks on the wall that you have to bomb, and the game doesn't like tell you that you have to bomb those cracks. I'm like, wait, is that just like a texture or is that like an actual crack thing? So yeah, that's been fun, and I think that's pretty much it. I also have The World Ends With You, the new one, and I never played more than like 2 hours of it.
Can I tell you? It's that still is in the packaging for me.
And I was so excited. Like I played the original, and I'm like, I was so ready for the sequel, but then everything came out at once, and I have so many games going on. And then I played No More Heroes 3 for review, so it's just been very busy for games. But yeah, that's me.
Yes. David, what have you been playing with Power?
So I've been making my way through all the Metroid games, trying to be ready for Metroid Dread. I don't know if I'm going to get there in time, but that's okay. But this was my first time playing Super Metroid and loving it. I tried so many times before, and I guess now that I have an understanding of the Metroid franchise, it's been easier. So I've really enjoyed playing Super Metroid on the SNES Online.
Did you finish it?
No, I've got a little bit left.
Okay.
School year started, so I got a little busier. I've had to be creative in finding game time.
To get to the last boss, I just can't wait. I want to hear your.
We will talk for sure. Yeah, I have lots of thoughts in the game, but and then the new season of Fortnite started today. And Seven, you were talking about playing with your kids, and video games with your kids is such a special experience. And that's a game that my kids, we do the battle pass together every season, and so I'm looking for. I'll be doing that when I'm off the podcast here, nice. And then not on Nintendo, but I am just in love with Aliens Fireteam Elite. It's my favorite, maybe my favorite story franchise ever. The films are, and so it's great when a video game actually lives up to your expectations, and this one did for me, so it's good.
Cool.
So I have a mixed bag also. I've been playing, of course, Super Epic. I am going to get back into No More Heroes 3. I ended up putting it down because of Super Epic on how just addictive that game is. Raccoon on a llama fighting pigs in a Metroidvania style game. Amazing, and it's funny, and it's so good. I've been playing a lot of Streets of Rage 4 Survival, getting my characters, trying to unlock all of their special moves, and just like enjoying that. Finished Lake on Xbox. I am writing the review. I'm going over it, making sure that's ready to submit and then be edited. I haven't even added the pictures and stuff. I'm just making sure that I'm like, do I make sure that this is clear, that it flows? I want to make sure that it's really good to get out there. Playing Tales of Arise. That's why I didn't pick up WarioWare, and it's becoming, like, for a lot of people, Game of the Year nomination. It's pretty much a Game of the Year nomination for me. It's leading up to that. I got to play more. It really feels like a good Tales game. Like, they simplified it. It's not crazy or anything. The fighting is so fun and easy to get into. Just truly enjoying that. And then going to be jumping back into Dead Space. The trilogy to play throughout the week. I'm going to be playing it kind of after the show, so I could get done with the first one and then jump into 2, and then jump into 3. So and also play Gears 5 on Series X. I kind of want to see how the upgrades does. It looks really good for it. I know there are a ton of games that are coming out. I just seen that Eastward is coming out this Friday. Yeah. I've kind of been hearing some good things about it, but I'm not definitely sure. So I cannot wait to get that and pick it up. I'm going to be finishing some games up on this vacation, I promise.
But you got a great amount of games that you just listed. Like, I'm really looking forward to reading that Lake review, because that's kind of another game that's like moving my barometer to Xbox. But then like would play, anyway. But yeah, get those games done. There's a lot of good fall stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, and Breath of Fire for Switch Online, SNES. I never got to finish Breath of Fire on Super Nintendo. And Capcom, if you're watching this, or if anyone who loves Capcom, tell them to bring Breath of Fire 3 to Switch. I love that game. So, one of the best PS1 RPGs I've ever played. And along with Alondra. Alondra came to Switch. But everybody, that has been Playing with Power, and that is the end of our show. Thank you, David. Thank you, Greysun. Thank you, Stephanie. We're gonna just keep this quick and everything. Everybody, thank you for tuning in Nintendo Pow Block. You'll be able to see our shows. Once again, we'll be going live again. This one was recorded. We'll be going live like in 2 weeks, so we'll be back to our normal schedule. But you can check us out on Mondays at 7:30/8:30 p.m. on Twitch. And also check us out at what is our Twitch thing? I
think everything's Boss Rush right now.
The Boss Rush Network, you could just find us there. Find us on bossrush.net, I believe. I'm sorry, everybody. They told me not to do plugs, so that's why I kind of just like trying to do stuff on the top of my head. So I apologize with that. But everybody, have a great week, have a great weekend. Go out there and play some games, experience a lot of stuff that's coming out or some stuff in the past. And with that, we'll see you next time on Nintendo Pow Block. Bye, everybody. Woohoo!
Bye.